Okay, what's up, everyone? Swinging Bull here with PB Alerts, and welcome to my earnings stream. Do this every week, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern. And today we got some really good companies reporting earnings, Snowflake, and of course Zoom. So these are the two that are reporting. I checked the times before the stream started, and both of them are supposed to report right at 4:05 p.m. Eastern. So should get the data on both these companies at the same time. If anyone was watching the markets today and noticed quite the sell-off a little bit after lunchtime, that was due to the bonds. Basically, what was uncovered is the demand for bonds have dramatically decreased. So in turn, the yields kind of skyrocketed a little bit. Here's I'll pull up the chart of the 10-year yield here. So you can see right when the selling started in the indexes, the yields actually rallied quite a bit. So anytime we see that, of course, money's going to come out of stocks, and the yield going up on the bonds is supposed to make it more attractive. So in the hopes that people will buy more bonds, right? So the interest in buying bonds, the demand for bonds is kind of lower than they thought, and this is what happens, and that's why the market sold off today. Okay. Actually was live streaming with the Discord members earlier today, specifically the lifetime members, and we actually caught that flush. It was a beautiful trade. We actually did 2 scalp trades. The first scalp we made was like $40 profit per contract, and then the second scalp we did was we made over $100 profit per contract. So 2 sweet scalp trades, and then I also last week I opened up some SPY put debit spreads as kind of to hedge my long positions. I'm long on 5 stocks right now. So last week I opened up some SPY put debit spreads just to be able to make money if there's any downside. And the spread I did for the SPY put debit spreads was the 589 and the 588 strike, and they actually were expiring this Friday. So I decided to take profit on those and made some really good money on that hedge. So next time the markets kind of pump up a little bit, maybe there's a little bit of a relief bounce or something, I'll go ahead and deploy another hedge. That way I can keep rinsing and repeating those. If the market wants to keep selling off, then I'm going to keep making money on the downside, right? And it's more of the protection for the stocks I'm long on. I'm long on like 5 different stocks right now. So anyways, that's what was going on in the market today. It's about 4:02 p.m. Eastern. And like I say, we got Snowflake earnings and Zoom earnings. So Snowflake closed the regular session at $179.15 a share, down 2% on the day. And most stocks ended the day red, of course, with the market-wide sell-off because of the bonds. And sitting here in after hours, just awaiting the earnings data. Got about another 2 minutes before it's supposed to drop. Zoom is the other one. They closed the regular session at $82.09 a share, down 1.2% on the day. Again, just sitting here in after hours waiting on the data. Let's just take a quick peek at a few things. Also, don't forget about our second annual Traders Paradise in-person event. It's in Chicago this year from June 9th through the 12th. And there's a link in the description that'll give you a lot more information about the tickets and what's going on at the event. And I'll go over this a little bit more at the end of this stream. But Snowflake forecast EPS is 0.21. The forecast revenue is $1 billion, and they're trading well above their anchored VWAP. Their anchored VWAP right around like 159. And then for Zoom, their forecast EPS is $1.31, and the forecast revenue is 1.16 billion. They're also trading pretty well above their anchored VWAP. Their anchored VWAP is around $75 a share. So should get the data here at any moment. Let me go back to TradingView. Let me see. Systematic Investing on YouTube. Welcome to the show. So you're long on Snowflake, should see some strong revenue growth and hopefully some strong movement toward profitability. Okay, good. Appreciate the input. Sometimes what I like to do, if there's an earnings catalyst coming up and I'm long on something, I was just talking about hedges just a little bit ago, but even I've been trading put debit spreads. I've been using those as my hedges lately, and it's been working out beautifully. So That's one way to maybe protect the downside a little bit in case there is a negative reaction. Of course, the other way, if you have 100 shares or more, for every 100 shares, we can write a covered call contract, collect some income, and in case there's a downside move of some sort. But Snowflake's a solid company. We'll see what their reaction is going to be to the earnings. Looks like the data is out. Initial reaction was negative, wick down to 175. Seems to be catching a little bit of a bid here. It's up $5 a share. Let's let it kind of settle down and marinate a little bit, because sometimes, the minute or two after the data comes out, you get a lot of volatility and flicker action and wick action with the candle. So let's make sure this is the real move. But so far it looks good, because initial move was down. That wasn't the right move. That wasn't the real move. And immediately got bought up, and it probably tripped some algos or something to form that bottom wick. But so far, a positive reaction. Let me go on my other screen here and see if I get some EPS revenue and perhaps some guidance. Zoom's data seems to be out as well, and they kind of did the same thing that Snowflake did. They initially wicked down, and then buyers stepped up to the plate. So now they're sitting up here positive in after hours. It does look like Snowflake's catching a little bit of a bid here. They're up $11 a share in after hours, $11 change. And let me just go to my other screen here. And okay, cool. Yep, got some data here. It's from the earnings correspondent, giving credit where credit's due. But here's the nice little graphic that was put together. Again, we're going to go over Snowflake first, and then we'll go over Zoom. But again, the forecast for the EPS was 0.21. They just reported 0.24 for the EPS, so they did beat EPS by double digits, 14% beat there. Revenue, 1.01 billion, and they just reported 1.04 billion, so they beat revenue by 3%. So double beat, top and bottom line, looks pretty good so far on Snowflake. EPS was up 71% year over year. Systematic investing on YouTube, you're probably loving what you're seeing here. Up over $12 a share in after hours. It's looking like possibly an early congratulations to the bulls on this one. I don't want to speak too soon. The data was just released a few minutes ago. Let's give it just a little bit more time for the earnings data to be digested by investors, and let's make sure it can hold up here. If it starts looking a little weak, maybe I'll draw a Fibonacci on there just to get an idea where 25% retrace would be, because if it does that, that would just be healthy price action. But working on a second 1 minute candle right now. Just keep in mind these are 1 minute candles, so don't put too much weight on these. But overall, it's looking like a nice positive reaction by both Snowflake and Zoom. Zoom's up about $2.31 a share right now, up almost 3% in after hours. Not really catching as much of buying pressure as Snowflake thus far. That could definitely change here in the next few minutes, so I just keep my eye on it. Let me make sure I didn't miss any comments on the Discord. Don't want to ignore my Discord family over here. Looks like everyone's chatting away, watching the reactions as with us, right along with us. And systematic investing, you got some long calls for a few months out. Okay, yeah. Depending on depending on the strike price, maybe those end up in the money for you tomorrow, and that'd be a nice little surprise for you tomorrow morning when the regular session bell rings for open. So good job on that. Systematic investing on YouTube. Looks like you're gonna have a good payday there. Snowflake has been throwing up some big earnings gaps the last few quarters. Yeah, I was looking at that earlier too. I always like to go back and look at the last 4 earnings reactions. Oh, nice. You had the 180 strike for July 18th. Yeah, if this holds up well, you're going to be 10 points in the money. Bravo. You should definitely get some good benefits on as far as the delta and gamma and stuff like that. Theta shouldn't hurt you too bad, especially now that you're going to be 10 points in the money. If it does hold up here, the theta is not going to be as bad as an out of the money call, as we all know. So congrats on that trade there. Very well done. Looking like it's pulling back a little bit. Nothing too concerning. Just want to kind of get an idea where this 25%. I'm not going to count this bottom wick because that was just kind of a volatility wick down, popped right back up. So I'm just going to go from the bottom of kind of where it closed at, and kind of sitting right around this 25% retrace. Might be off by some change, but I'd probably call that around $190. Let's see if Snow can hold 190 here. That'd probably be my S1. Again, these are 1 minute candles, so don't put too much weight on it. But S1 190, S2 probably just bring that to the 50% retrace. That's going to put it around 187 bucks a share. So S1 190, S2 187. Would like to see those levels hold. If all else fails for some odd reason, we got the golden ratio that puts it right at 185 bucks a share. As long as the golden ratio holds, not really too concerned about this pulling back a little bit, maybe gearing up for another leg up or something. Keep your eyes on the price action, see if it, if it starts trading sideways, maybe it's in some sort of accumulation phase or consolidation phase, and that's kind of winding up to go up and test the after hours high, right? So let's just keep our eye on some of these levels, real easy levels. Again, S1 190 kind of sitting there right now. S2, I'd put that at 187, and then golden fib at 185. So let's just make sure those levels hold. Again, I won't be surprised if we see a little bit of selling and profit taking, just kind of healthy price action, if you will, from just kind of rallying. What it rallied 14 points from the close, 15 points actually. So if it pulls back a couple points, it's nothing to freak out about. So got my fib on there. Looks like I put it in at the right time when it was kind of taking a little breather. So now we got some solid levels we can keep our eyes on. And look, it's bouncing right off this 38% retrace. That's around 188.50 a share. So looks like some buyers are stepping up right now. Again, 1 minute candles. Once we get some more 1 minute candles printing, I'll probably switch over to 5 minute. But kind of 1 minute candles, kind of all the only thing we got to work with because the data was just released, right? So let me switch over to Zoom just real quick. And also let me I didn't finish going over this graphics because they had some really good year-over-year growth. EPS up 71%, revenue up 26%. EPS was down 20% quarter-over-quarter, more of a shorter-term view there. But revenue was up 6% quarter-over-quarter, but really impressed with their year-over-year numbers, EPS and revenue respectively. So pretty solid beat, top and bottom line. Let me move this back over here just for a second, and I want to see if I can get some info on the guide. Give me 1 minute and I'll get that. And then I'll also post the EPS and revenue data on the bottom of my screen on YouTube. And then we'll jump over to Zoom and see what's going on with them because they're obviously had a positive reaction. So investors are liking the Zoom earnings data as well. Let me get this EPS and revenue data on the bottom of my screen on YouTube. I know a lot of people are here for Snowflake, so let me just get this posted for everyone real quick. There we go. Okay, so again, double beat by Snowflake. Good job. Good job by them. Let me go down here. Okay, let's see here. Do got some guidance information courtesy of Wall Street Engine. I appreciate you. Let's look at some of the guidance. So fiscal year, okay, so product revenue, 4.32 billion. That's what they just reported. The estimate on that guidance line item was only 4.18 billion. So they increased the guidance. So that's also why Snowflake is catching a bit of a bid here. Investors are liking what they're seeing. Again, beat EPS, beat revenue, and increased guidance. Let's look at some other guidance related stuff. So product revenue now for this is the guidance for Q2 of 2026. They increased the guidance on that line item as well, 1.03 billion to 1.04 billion. The estimate was 1.01 billion. So they're increasing guidance pretty well here. Investors are liking it. Just a quick comment from the CEO. Snowflake delivered another strong quarter with 26% year-over-year growth. We just got done talking about that. And that was in product revenue and a 34% increase in RPO. Our platform's ease of use, scalability, and trust for enterprise-grade performance continue to drive adoption across industries. We see enormous opportunity ahead as we extend our value throughout the full data lifecycle, including AI. So some pretty strong comments from the CEO. They beat EPS, they beat revenue, increased guidance. I mean, it's just a recipe for a positive reaction, and that's what we're seeing here. So it's probably congratulations to the Snowflake bulls, okay? Okay, so we got the data. We talked about Snowflake. Let me just show everyone how to get to the earnings web call with the upper management for Snowflake. I'll get the link for that. We'll get that out of the way. And then we're going to talk about Zoom for a minute. Give me 1 second, and I'll get that link for everyone for the earnings web call with the CEO and what have you. So. Okay, so let me go to, I'm just going to get it straight from Snowflake's investor relations page. Okay, so here we go. I got it pulled up right here. And I'll go ahead and post this link here because it's kind of a shorter link. Link will probably get bigger as I start clicking on things. But let me post this on the bottom of my screen on YouTube so everyone can screenshot this. This is the link that's gonna take you to the web call. All right, and I know a lot of people want to see that. So there's the link. I'll leave the link up there just for a little bit so people have a chance to screenshot it. But let's go ahead and scroll down. Of course, we got the home page on the investor relations site, and you got some company highlights you can look at, things of that nature. And this is the latest financials, if you will, or company highlights as they put it in the earnings that was just released by them just now. And let's go to so once you go to that link I just posted on the bottom of my screen, you just scroll right down and you're going to see it right here. Okay, latest events. All right, or you can just go right here, latest presentation. It's all right here. But right here on the right hand side, you can see here, this is the Snowflake earnings conference call, May 21st. And you see this link, if you're looking at my screen, it just says webcast. Just going to click on that. They might have you fill out a little form with your name and email. It's fine. I've filled out many of them before when I've attended web calls, and they're just trying to keep count of how many people are attending the web call. You're not going to get spammed or anything like that. But you can see here that the web call is at 5 p.m. Eastern. All right. So we got so it's a little after 4:15 right now. So we got about 45 more minutes until this web call. But I just wanted to make sure everyone had the link and knows how to get there. All right. So we got that. Hopefully everyone had a chance to screenshot that link. I'm going to put Snowflake's EPS and revenue data back on the bottom of my screen. And if anyone needs that link again, just go to the YouTube comments. It's sitting right there. So let me go to Zoom now. Let's see what's going on with Zoom, because they also initially got a positive reaction. It looks like they just from looking at it from a bird's eye view, it looks like they retraced about 50%. So let me just pull up my Zoom screen here and let's see what they reported. So the initial positive reaction, then pulled back like 50% of that pump. So I just kind of want to know if there's some info still being digested here by investors or what. Let me just take a look. I keep my eye on Snowflake here on the left. It's looking like it's starting to trade sideways, isn't it? After pulling back a little bit. So it's kind of just hanging out right above the 38% retrace, puts it at about $1.88. I'm sorry, 188 and 54 cents a share. I would just call it 188.50. So let's see if it continues trading sideways around that level. And maybe it's winding up for another run at after hours high. Before I go over, okay, so yeah, we already found out the guidance on Snowflake and all that. So let me switch over to Zoom. Zoom is retracing here. They closed the regular session at 82.27 a share. They are green in after hours, up 1.4%. Let me show everyone this graphic real quick. We'll just go over this real quick. I'll get this thing out of the way so we can keep our eye on Snowflake. But the forecast for the EPS on Zoom was $1.31. We were talking about that earlier. They just reported $1.43, so they did beat EPS by 9%. Revenue, tiny beat, basically came in line though. But you could say technically it's a tiny beat, right? So the forecast was 1.17 billion. They just reported 1.175 billion. Okay, so very slight beat. Yeah, big bull on Discord. Yes, Snow is getting quite a nice move here. And we actually have a member in the Discord whose name is Snowflake. So it's always fun to have him in the room when we're talking about snow. And then all of a sudden Snowflake pops up like a genie, right? I love that guy. Me and him do a lot of wheel strategy stuff and target income. So me and him have been trading together for quite a while. But anyways, for the Zoom data, so yes, they did have a double beat. Revenue more in line. Okay, investors are going to look at that as being more in line. EPS up 6% year over year. Revenue up 3% year over year. So no double-digit growth on EPS and revenue, but nonetheless, it's green, right? They do have some growth. EPS up 1% quarter over quarter. Revenue down 1% quarter over quarter. Respectively. So let me move this back over and just see if there's any guidance. And I want to look also again at Snow just to see if they announced anything else that could be important. but let me finish going over Zoom. I'm going to put the data for Zoom on the bottom of my screen on YouTube as well. And Zoom also did raise guidance as well. So both companies raised guidance and both companies beat top and bottom line. So they raised fiscal year 26 guidance. EPS was 5.34 to 5.37. And now they're saying they're expecting 5.56 to 5.59. So solid raise on EPS guidance from Zoom. They also raised the guidance on revenue. It was 4.79 billion, and they just raised it a tad to the estimate was 4.79 billion. So they raised it to 4.8 to 4.81 billion. So slight raise on guidance on the revenue, more of a raise on guidance on the EPS line item. So good stuff there. Let me post their EPS and revenue data on YouTube so everyone has that for their records. And then I'll show everyone how to get to the Zoom earnings web call. There we go. Okay, so got EPS and revenue data posted on YouTube. Let me look at some other things, make sure I didn't miss anything. Zoom's enterprise revenues came in at 704 million. That's up 5.9% year over year. Online revenue came in at 470 million. And let me see, cash in buybacks. They did also confirm that their 1.2 billion in buyback is remaining in place. So they didn't pull out the buyback plan. Some companies withdraw that, sometimes, but they're very much sticking to the 1.2 billion buyback. Looks like it was already in there, and they're just reaffirming that they're keeping that. They did repurchase 5.6 million shares in Q1, all right, and in Q4 with this share repurchase, the buyback plan, if you will. Q4 they only repurchased 4.3 million in Q4, so they increased their buyback in Q1 by 1.3 million, and this is share volume, okay? So they're, just looks like they're kind of escalating their repurchase program, kind of speeding it up a little bit if you compare Q4 to Q1. So pretty good. I like the Zoom earnings. They're not really catching a bid, but nonetheless, they're up 1.75%. Back over to Snowflake just for a second. They did, in fact, use that 38% retrace as a floor. So far, there was an impulse move up. It looked like it was going to make a run towards after hours high. Pulling back a little bit again here. Let's see if it ends up making another higher low, maybe around 190. Looks like 188.50 a share ended up holding when it was kind of trading sideways a little bit. We did get an impulse move up, kind of printing some doji looking candles right now. That for the bulls, that's good because these are red candles, but they're kind of small red candles, right? So not really a lot of selling pressure, but nonetheless, it is printing some tiny red candles. Just something to be aware of. S1 from here is going to be 188.50 a share. And let's see if it can hold 190 and form a higher low. We'll see. Again, still on the 1 minute chart, so don't put a lot of weight on it, but this is the only data we have to go off of right now. Let me go 1 minute chart on Zoom. Okay. Yeah, let me put a fib on this one because it's taking a breather right now. So this would be a good time to draw one on. Again, I'm not going to use this bottom wick. That wasn't the real move. Probably just put it at the bottom of this green candle from when it initially started rallying a little bit. So very interesting. Zoom sitting right above the golden ratio. Everyone that trades with Fibonacci's and I don't just use Fibonacci's. I use a lot of market internals when I'm trading the indexes like Vol-D. I use Tick a lot. I use ADD a lot. Just giving out some Easter eggs there of some of my favorite indicators that are not so much your indicators that everyone's used to. The indicators I like watching are market internals or market breadth, that kind of thing. So like the ADD indicator, that's basically just a comparison of the stocks that are advancing compared to the stocks that are declining. So I like looking at that a lot. Of course, Tick is more transaction based and just kind of telling me, that's reading negative 753 right now on SPY. So that's telling me there was more transactions in the negative than it was positive. And then, of course, the vol-D ratio closed the regular session at negative 7.7 to 1 ratio. That's extremely bearish signal. And you can see the histogram candles were descending down. So it's very easy put trade if you caught that this afternoon, just using some market internal indicators. Let me go back just for a second. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything on Zoom. So I don't think I did. I mean, we went over Snowflake. They beat EPS, they beat revenue, they raised guidance. Zoom, they beat EPS, they beat revenue, and they also raised guidance. So you got a kind of similar situation going on with both these companies as far as what type of earnings data was released. Looks like Snow is kind of benefiting a little more than Zoom, as Snow is up 6% in after hours. Zoom is up 1.4% in after hours. But Zoom kind of hanging out around the golden ratio right now. So we'll see. I'd like that level to hold. I'd probably call it around $83, low $83 range. Let's see if that holds. And then kind of go from there. Let me look at, got some questions here on YouTube. What are your thoughts on Snow as long-term investment? I'm a big fan of Snow. All right. And there's another staff member in the group over here at PB Alerts. His name's Shai. Big time investor, very, very strong following on Twitter. He's also a very big fan of Snow. And I'm my honest opinion is I like the company. I was trading in the 190 range, and there's a reason why it's trading up there. And let's just take a look at a couple things real quick. So I want to look at some of the, I just kind of want to look at their debt to asset ratio. It was only 66%. Okay. And also keep in mind, this is a very positive thing. Snow has almost $5 billion in cash and equivalents. So they're sitting on a ton of cash. They got plenty of money for operations. And I'm definitely a fan of Snow. Technical analysis wise, there are some gaps to the downside. So just be cognizant of that. Of course, market makers like to go down there and resolve the gaps. It's basically unresolved price action, right? So might see a push down there. I just do see a lot of price action that's not resolved. Just something to keep in the back of your mind. Gaps don't always fill quickly. Sometimes they sit there for a year. I mean, look at this gap from, let me see, just this one here that I can find. This is from April. So this gap here is a 1 month old alone, and it continued to rally. So don't start, not financial advice, but I wouldn't start shorting stuff just because there's gaps, because we've seen gaps being left untouched for a substantial amount of time. But it's good to know that they are there and could potentially get filled at some point. We just don't know. Look at the gap here from this earnings. This was from earnings when they reported for Q3. And so this was like November of last year, gapped up. And that was November of last year. That gap never got filled until last month. So that gap was left exposed for 5 whole months before it actually filled. So that's what I'm saying. But long term, it's obviously trending up now after it was trending down since February. Of course, I don't think this was any fault of Snowflake when they did enter this downtrend from February, because of course we all know that's when the 20% market correction started happening. And then the indexes, specifically SPY, I think NASDAQ hit 20% before S&P did. But, most of the stocks from February till about early April kind of were in this downtrend. So it's not so much Snowflake's fault, more they were just involved in a market-wide sell-off, the correction, right? Now they're out of that downtrend, trading again, the price action back above the 21 EMA. So that's definitely a good sign. Probably have S1 on the bigger time frames. I mean, it's obviously getting a positive reaction right now. So it's trading in the 190s. So that would put the price up here. Looks like what is their all-time high? 237. We can go weekly chart. Actually, it's more than that. They were in the 400s at one point. Jeez, that's when it was real hyped up when they first got IPO'd. But just kind of looking at the weekly chart, obviously there was some sellers up here waiting in around 195. trading at 190 and 48 cents a share right now. So resistance 1, I just call it R1, 195. If it breaks 195, I always, from experience, I've always noticed, like when you get these big selling candles, the same amount of force that this selling occurred, you could see the same thing when it goes to retest that resistance. So I'd put R1 at 195. If it can break and hold above 195, on the weekly candle, or maybe get a few days above 195, this has a good shot at getting back into the 230s. I think it'll probably move pretty quickly to that area, just because of the sheer selling force when it lost that area. I think it could go back up there, kind of like a magnet, pretty quickly to the 230. So R1 195, that's probably what I would be looking at. And then if we get the break and hold of 195, technical analysis wise, I think there'd probably be some easy calls into the $200 plus range, if you will. So maybe hope that helped, maybe clarify some things you were already thinking, or maybe some things you might not have been thinking. So that's kind of my technical analysis on Snowflake, if you will. But as a company, I am a fan of Snowflake. I think they're going to do well. They got a big following, and they're doing some very creative things with their company, and I love them. Let me go back here. So systematic investing. I hope that helped a little bit for you, and kind of go from there. You just look at here, another question on YouTube. Is there a specific sector or stock that you personally think has an attractive valuation? Maybe something that lots of other people are not talking about. I was talking about this with one of my colleagues the other day, and we've been talking about it for a few months now. I think software companies are going to do great, okay, for the foreseeable future. I really do. So keep your eye on software companies, okay? I really think they're going to perform well. One software company that I've been trading religiously and making some decent money on is Cloudflare. Everyone's heard of Cloudflare. It's ticker symbol NET. To be honest with you, anyone who scooped this up when it briefly breached to the downside of 100, that was an ultimate dip buy there. You could see that it bottomed out at $89 and some change. This thing went on a monster rally. I've actually been doing a lot of diagonal calendar spreads on this, and just kind of like a little ATM machine in my office. And net, just keep your eye on net. But in general, and this is for Rando on YouTube, software companies, man, put it on your radar. Check make sure that, because there are some crappy software companies out there. So, just do some basic DD, make sure they have a positive PE ratio, make sure they got a positive EPS, make sure their debt to asset ratio is below 100%. Anything over 100%, that means they're kind of over leveraged as a company. So just a couple of little quick tips, things you can find on FinViz or Webull stats very easily, and just, make a little checklist. And keep your eye on software companies. I'm telling you, it's going to be good. They're going to do very well. So I hope that helped a little bit. So a little after 4:30 here. Let me just go back to the Discord and make sure I didn't miss anyone on there. Rollins A2 says if snow breaks 195, it should really run. Rollins, I was just thinking that. So Rollin on Discord, we got the same mindset about that 195 break on snow. I really do, and I'm not talking about just a quick break and then it loses that level. That's why we need a couple at least daily candles close above 195 to show confidence that yes, this is going to be the new support. Investors are interested in using this level as demand. So maybe a few daily candles, a weekly candle closing above that would probably solidify it for me. I think it runs pretty quickly into the 200s after that 195 hold. So I agree with you, Roland. So yeah, we got our earnings reaction. So we're back to TradingView just for a sec. And yep, Snowflake's making higher lows, just like I thought. So this is exactly what you want to see for the bulls. This very well is making the run to a new after hours high. Might even trend up and keep making higher lows for the remainder of after hours price action, because we still got 3.5 hours left until after hours ends. And then of course we get the pre-market data. So this looks really good. I really like what I'm seeing here. It's making higher lows after the initial rally. You got some pretty solid support levels you can keep your eye on. Just pop a golden fib on the from the bottom before it rallied to the after hours high. Get some really easy bird's eye view levels you could just quickly look at and see if it's making higher lows or not, right? You don't even really need the fib to spot the higher lows, but having the levels in place, the mathematical retrace levels in place, it does help. Let's see, random stuff. Super interesting, man. Appreciate the insight. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming to hang out. I do these earnings stream every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Usually on Mondays, I'll sit down and go over the earnings calendar and kind of pick out two of the popular stocks for each of those days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I come on here, we talk about the earnings data, we see how the stock price reacts to the earnings data. We go over EPS, we go over revenue, we go over any guidance information we can find. We look at some technical levels on the bigger time frame, just some really easy stuff to kind of keep in mind, whether you're a bull or a bear. And look at Zoom, 100% retraced on the Zoom. That's very interesting. After they beat EPS and they beat revenue and they increased guidance, they had a nice pop up, about $3 a share, and they literally just retraced all the way back down. So I don't know if this thing's just running on low volume or what, because the price action looks a little sloppy. I'm not going to lie. These are even 1 minute candles. You're just seeing some odd looking candles, some odd looking gaps. So, maybe institutions, hedge funds, big money, what have you, market makers, maybe they're waiting to pull the trigger to give this one a bid. Overall, I think the earnings data was good. So, it's not bad for the bulls, because it's not in the red, is it? We had a nice positive reaction. It just unfortunately retraced 100%, but it's sitting back up here, around $83 a share. So it's up what in after hours 0.77%. Keep your eye on it. We definitely don't want the bottom falling out on this. Maybe there was some additional data that was released that came in later, and that's why it's kind of getting some selling here. So, but I do think the winner of the day is Snowflake. So congrats to the Snowflake bulls. Zoom, Zoom is Zoom, right? They used to be really hyped up back in the day when everyone started doing their web calls. And now, I just don't think Zoom has a moat. There's a lot of other companies that can kind of replicate their business model. That's something that I think they've struggled with before, because you can see, we'll go to the weekly chart, and you can absolutely see on the weekly chart when Zoom was really hyped up, when all, this is with the COVID when everyone got locked down for COVID, everyone had to get on a computer, a video call. Zoom was kind of leading the charge when all that went down, and they were trading well above $500 when that was happening, right? And this was back in 2020. And because they didn't have a moat, a lot of other companies that have deep pockets basically started replicating their business model. That's why this thing wasn't able to stay elevated up there, because if they don't have a moat and their business model is easily replicated, it's not really too good of a long-term investment, because their market share is going to go down and down over the years, because other companies are going to start doing exactly what they're doing. So in situations like that, we as investors, if you're a fan of Zoom, you want to read the fine print and make sure they're using their money to do something that's going to expand their business, maybe into something that not everyone's doing. They got to have to kind of find a new creative product. They got to do a real good job with R&D, if you will, to try and find something else that they can make money on, that not everyone else can do. And then you may see this rally again, but until then, just keep your eye on it. Keep your eye on the small print when they do their earnings and what the CEOs are saying and stuff like that. But nonetheless, maybe that's the reason why they're not really catching a bid like Snowflake. Is yes, the data was good, but they don't really got a moat. That's kind of how I would look at it, really. So anyways, with that said, it's almost 4:40 p.m. Last couple minutes, I just want to remind everyone again about our in-person event in Chicago. Last year, we did it in Delray Beach. I live in Florida, so I just jumped in my truck and drove over there and met everyone. It was real awesome meeting everyone. We did live trading every day and did so much other stuff. This year is our second time doing it. We had 3 tickets to choose from. There was a bronze, a silver, and a gold ticket. The gold ticket obviously being the best ticket. We're sold out of the gold tickets. We don't have no more of those. We do still have bronze and silver tickets left. And it's going to be in Chicago from June 9th through 12th. Let me get this bottom rocker off my YouTube screen so everyone can see the dates. There we go. And just a little quick summary about what we're going to be doing in Chicago is we're going to be live trading every single day. All right, and we're going to trade the opening move. Make sure to bring your laptops so you can trade right alongside with us. Again, it's from June 9th through the 12th. It's going to be at the Hyatt Regency in O'Hare, Chicago. In Chicago, anyone from Chicago, you know where O'Hare is at. So the Hyatt Regency, I'm looking forward to staying at that hotel. It's going to be a great time. The event is for 4 days. Again, live trading at market open, so bring your laptops. There's going to be lots of interactive workshops. There's going to be a live masterclass on advanced options. I'm actually going to be running that session because that's what I specialize in over here in the Discord. I do a lot of spreads, credit spreads, debit spreads, condors, long condors. I run a lot of the wheel strategy. I write a ton of, I basically am a contract writer. I like being on that side of the transaction. I do still day trade a lot and scalp. We had some sweet scalp trades I did today with the lifetime members. We caught that flush down from the bond action. So, but yeah, and we're also going to do an AI and text-based deep dive. Basically, where's the big money and institutions placing their bets for the rest of this year, right? We're going to talk all about that. Lou Bassanisi is going to be there. He's been on Fox News, lots of financial media outlets, been on TV a lot. He has his own session, and it's how to develop as an investor, because of course Lou Bassanisi is more of an investor than a trader per se. Can't wait to sit in on that session and pick his brain. That's going to be a great one. You don't want to miss it. We're also releasing a new TradingView indicator, and there's going to be some private dinners. You know, lots of high-level discussions go on behind closed doors, and you want to seat at those private dinners. That's where we really get down to brass tacks, and it's going to be great insight at those dinners. Once you buy your ticket, I did also want to mention the bronze and silver ticket. Those are 30% off right now. All right, and the screen that I'm on right now, there's a link in my YouTube description. It'll take you right here, so you can see everything I'm seeing. The bronze and silver tickets are 30% off. That's good until May 30th. So only 9 more days for the discount. And also, once you get your ticket, make sure to get a hold of the Hyatt Regency, because we blocked off 50 hotel rooms. We got a block of rooms, of 50 rooms, and those are discounted rooms, okay? So we all like getting discounts and saving money, of course. So once you get your ticket, get a hold of the Hyatt Regency and get your hotel room booked so you can get that discounted room. Once those 50 rooms fill up, it's gonna be full price for the room. So I'd like to get as many people as I can on that hotel room block because we reserved 50 rooms. All right, so that's the deal. I'm excited to meet everyone in Chicago, everyone that's going. And also, if you looking for a new trading home, of course, check out our Discord. There's a link in the description. You can even just join the free section, see how you like it. If you do end up joining the Discord, tag me in the chat. I'll definitely come by and say hello, and then we can talk for a little bit. But yeah, other than that, I hope everyone enjoyed the stream. Once again, I do this every week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern. And we have a lot of fun, and I just love doing it. So, but yeah, hope everyone enjoys the rest of their night, and I'll chat with everyone later and see everyone in the very next stream. Cheers, and have a great night.